Hi guys, welcome. If you're new to my channel, my name is Carmen, welcome. So in this video, we're going to talk about what are the negative characteristics of the number 5 in numerology, but we're also going to talk about the positive characteristics too. So we're talking about the good and the bad of number 5 in this video. But before we do that, if you are excited to watch this video today, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to book a reading with me, I will leave the information to that below in the description box. So let's get into it. What is the dark side of number 5 in numerology? Let's find out. So each number in numerology is ruled by a part of our solar system, and number 5 is ruled by the planet Mercury. And so I want you to imagine that for each number lies on a spectrum. And on the far end of the spectrum, we have all of the positive traits of the number, and then on the other end of the spectrum, we have all of the negative traits and negative attributes of that number. And most people that have this number lie somewhere in between on this spectrum. So most people are kind of in the middle. Some people tend to be more towards the positive end, and other people tend to be more towards the negative end of this number. So let's talk about the positive traits of this number first. So on the positive side of this number can be a very, very fun number. It can be a very outgoing number. So 5 is the number of freedom, and people with this number are really good at having a fun time and are really good at having their freedom and maintaining their freedom. And freedom is very important to this number. This number is also very adventurous on the positive end of this number. It's an adventure. It's the number that wants to go out into the world and explore the world and explore all of the different senses and explore all of the different aspects of the world. So this number on the positive end is an explorer of the outside world. And for that reason, people with this number on the positive end tend to love to travel. Travel is a big thing for them. You know, they are adventurers. They want to explore what's going on everywhere, and they like to see the different sides of life, and they are looking for a sensory experience. So the 5 senses are very, very important to people with this number, because people with this number are trying to seek out sensory experiences, and they're trying to experience all of the different 5 senses and do that in the external world. And they do that because this number needs to be mentally stimulated. So mental stimulation is very, very important for this number. Another positive aspect of this number is the curiosity. So this number is a very curious number, and this number really has a sense of wanting to get to know, like I said, they want to get to know the world around them. They want to see everything. They don't feel happy until they feel like they've covered every single ground, that they've looked under every single corner, and you know, the more places that they have traveled to, the more places they have been to, the better for them. So they're very curious people. This number can also be very romantic. And this number can be very charismatic and very charming. So people on the positive end of this number really know how to charm other people. And they have a lot of charisma, and they have a lot of charm to them, and other people usually are very drawn to them and really like to be around them and really enjoy their company. So, and they can be very witty, and they can say things that are really funny. So that's definitely one of the positive sides of this number, is they know how to charm the pants off of anybody. And people with this number can be very, very friendly. People enjoy being around them, and they enjoy being around other people. So it's a super friendly number, super fun, and people gravitate towards them because they're very friendly, they're very charismatic, and they're very charming. This number, like I said, is very fun and outgoing, and it's very exciting. So there's a lot of exciting things about this number. And this number, because it's so exciting, it's a very fun number. And having fun is very, very important to this number. This number is not happy unless they are having as much fun as they possibly can. And they do that through traveling and through having, their sensory experiences with the world. And they do that through charming other people. So having a good time, having fun is very, very important to this number. And keeping things exciting in life is also very, very important to this number. So this number can also be very dynamic as well. This number on the positive end is always changing and is okay with changing. And they're very open-minded and they're okay with changing with the times and changing their attitude about things. So they can be very dynamic. And this number can also be very adaptable and very flexible as well. So because change and transition is very, very important to this number, and we see a lot of change and transition within this number is also very comfortable with change in their environment and change with other people also, and it can be very flexible. On the positive end of this number, it is seeking out change, it is seeking out transition. And because it needs transition and it needs change, in order for it to be happy and in order for it to be having a good time and to keep things exciting, because it needs that change and that transition, and because it's looking for change and it's looking for transition, it can be a very flexible and a very adaptable number. And it kind of has to be a very flexible and adaptable number because there's so much change and transition that happens in the life of somebody who is a number 5. It has to be flexible, it has to be adaptable in order for it to survive. And it can be very accommodating and it can be very adaptable to different situations. And you can put somebody with a number 5 who's on the positive end of the number into any situation and they will be able to adapt and they will be able to change and they will be flexible in that kind of environment because they need change and they need transition. So they need to have those skills. And because of this, they can also be very resourceful and they really know how to use their resources. And like I said, they can be very accommodating because like I said, there's so much change that happens in their life. If they weren't accommodating, if they weren't flexible, if they didn't know how to use their resources, they wouldn't be able to survive. So now let's talk about the negative side of this number. And I want to say beforehand that I'm not saying that all 5s have these negative qualities. So you can either have a few of the negative qualities or a few of the positive qualities, or you could have all of the negative qualities on some days and then on other days you have all of the positive qualities. So you can fall anywhere on the spectrum with this number. So because this number is a very changing number and there's a lot of change and transition that happens in the life of a person with this number can be very unstable. And it can also be very unreliable. So you can't always rely on this number. This number is always seeking out new experiences and wants to experience something new. So it's not the most loyal number and it's not the most reliable number. Also, this number on the negative end can have addictive behaviors. So they are looking for a sensory experience. As I had mentioned before, they want to experience the 5 senses. They want to go out into the world and explore the world using their 5 senses, and they want to experience everything that the world has to offer. And so because of this, they can often become addicted to things. If they like something a lot, they will keep coming back to it over and over and over again. So it's not uncommon for people on the negative side of this number to become addicted to substances such as alcohol and drugs, or to become addicted to people or certain situations. And they will become addicted to substances because they are willing to experiment with substances because they're looking for that sensory experience. This number can also be very impulsive. When it wants something, it wants it right away, and impulsive behaviors is another negative attribute. This number can bore easily also. So people with this number tend to get bored very easily. They're looking for stimulation. They're looking for stimulation in the external environment, and they want mental stimulation. And if they're not being stimulated, then they will get bored very, very easily. That's one of the reasons why they like to travel. It's one of the reasons they are looking to explore the senses, because they get bored very easily. And sometimes this can affect their friendships also. So 5s are very friendly and curious, and they love to meet new people and become friends with new people. But unfortunately, sometimes what will happen is eventually they will get bored of these new people that they have met, and so they won't be as invested in the friendship as they were in the beginning. And sometimes this will leave people confused, because people will be like, hey, what happened? I met this really cool person and you're so fun to be around, and now all of a sudden you're not interested in me anymore. And sometimes people will be like confused as to why the 5 has lost interest in them. And it's just because 5s like novelty. And so they can get bored with relationships very easily also. And this number is very non-committal. So once again, with the change and the transition that this number constantly needs, it's not the most committed number. So people tend to be people that are not the most committed in relationships and not the most committed to other people. So on the negative end of this number, you can have a person who doesn't want to commit to a relationship, doesn't want to commit to a job, doesn't want to commit to anything in life, because they need to have their freedom so badly. And their freedom is so important to them, and they have such a need for that freedom that in this situation, commitment to like a job or a person can be very challenging for them. So in that situation, having a need for freedom would become a negative attribute, because if you have trouble making commitments to important things in life, that's going to cause you a lot of trouble, and it's going to cause you a lot of instability. Or in some cases, these people will eventually make a commitment to something, but it takes them longer than other people, or it happens later in life. This number can also be very irresponsible on the negative end. So this number is always looking for fun, and they're always looking to have an exciting, good time, and they like excitement. So sometimes they will put off responsibility and is not always the most responsible number because of this. So being irresponsible is definitely one of the traits of the negative side of this number. This number can also be very inconsistent. So one day it will be very, very interested in something, and the next day it will have no interest in that at all, and it will move on to something completely different, because remember, they're looking for change. This number wants change. It wants something different. It wants something new. It's not uncommon for this number to not always be consistent with things in life. They might like something one day and then abandon it the next day and move on to something completely different the next day, because this number can get bored so easily. Another negative side of this number is that it can be very disloyal and very unfaithful. So as I had mentioned before, on the negative end of this number, it is not the most committed number. And because of that, because it doesn't always have commitment to people and things in its life, it can be very disloyal to those things, and it can be very unfaithful. So cheating on other people, infidelity is very common with people who have this number, who are on the negative end of the number, because they are looking for a new experience. So if a new person comes into their life, then that new person is giving them that new experience and that new mental stimulation that they might be looking for. Because they have a need for freedom and for fun, and they have a deep curiosity within them, they can be very wild, and they can be very reckless, and they can also be very destructive, especially with their bodies. So like I had mentioned before, they will experiment with substances. They're seeking out that sensory experience. So they can be very destructive with themselves and have very destructive patterns. Also the inconsistency, the non-committalness of not wanting to commit to a job, or not having stability, not having a stable life, a stable job, a stable relationship, can be very destructive to their lives, and it can be very reckless. And if they're on the negative end of this number, that wildness, that need for freedom, and this wild streak within them can be very destructive, and it can cause a lot of problems for them. But all in all, this is such a truly high energy, fun, outgoing number. People just love fives. And honestly, I have never met a five that I didn't like. So for me, whenever I meet someone that I really, really like, usually it will turn out that they are a five. And so that's kind of the way it is with fives. People really, really do like them. They are usually very popular. And, you know, it's because they are so open-minded, they're so accepting, they're so fun to be around, they're so high energy, and they're so outgoing. There's just so many good qualities about this number. They're so friendly and so willing to be friends with so many different types of people from all walks of life, and they're just accepting of everyone. And we definitely need more people like this in the world. Can you imagine how boring this world would be if there were no fives in this world? It would be such a boring, dull place. So you guys bring the fun and you guys make things exciting. So definitely be proud to be a number 5. So let me know in the comments below what you think about the negatives and positives of number 5. Do any of these characteristics resonate with you, the good or the bad? Can you identify with any of these characteristics? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you want to check out my services, I will leave the information to that below in the description box. I would love to have you subscribe and follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video today. I am sending you light and love. Take care.